friends, welcome back to my channel. I decided to make another video. I'm very close to the camera. Back up the camera a little. Today's video is sponsored by Rive. Rive is a brand that creates empowering products to help others achieve the quality of life that they deserve. Their products, such as journals, day trackers, affirmation cards, tarot cards, and adult coloring books, help you to be your best through self-reflection, taking action, and setting goals. They nurture the birth of empowering daily habits that develop into meaningful growth and results. Thank you again, Rive, for sponsoring this video. Let's get started. If you've been watching my videos for the last little while, you'll know that I finally finished The Way of Kings at the end of 2023. It was one of my big goals, was to get it done by the end of the year, and I did do that. And I promised at the end of the year that I would make an in-depth review video, sort of talking about my thoughts on the book, and that is what we're filming today. And the main question that I wanted to address is Way of Kings worth the hype? My short answer is yes. You can leave the video now. No, but I do have a longer answer where I ask a couple more questions and I'm not just saying, yeah, perfect. I have some things to say, but short answer is yeah, it's awesome. So if you watched my 2023 wrap up, you'll already know that Way of Kings made the top 10. In fact, it was my #2 book of everything I read in 2023. So yeah, no surprise there that I think this book's incredible. But I didn't start reading it in 2023. I think I started it in 2021. I started with the physical book, not this one, with a mass market copy that I owned, and I immediately was like, I can't. One, I just hate mass market paperbacks. They're impossible to hold. I don't like them. I have big man hands. And it's the type of book where it was too intimidating to read a physical copy. So I switched quickly over to the audiobook. Now this was before I was really into audiobooks. I think this was the first one I had ever tried, and the reason I was doing it is because my husband Ryan loves Brandon Sanderson and especially the Stormlight Archive, but he only listens to audiobooks. So we already had it purchased, downloaded, and he was like, just listen to the audiobook if you don't want to read it, but it was important to him that I read the book. I went in with super mid expectations, because again, this was before I was really on Bookstagram, so I wasn't aware of the Brandon Sanderson fandom. That was hard to say. Brandon Sanderson Fanderson. And I trust Ryan's opinion on books, but he, especially at that time, didn't really read a lot. Other than Stephen King, he hadn't read much yet, and he was just breaking into reading for like the first time in his life, really. So I was like, yeah, this Brandon Sanderson person I'm sure is fine, but it's not gonna be anything special. But immediately after starting the audiobook, after getting like an hour in, I was like, okay, this is quality. I can recognize high quality in a book, whether I like the book or not. I know objectively if it's a really good book. And obviously, like everyone knows this now, I'm not the first person ever to say this, but Brandon Sanderson can write a book. That being said, the beginning just did not draw me in. A lot of people have said this, that they feel that book 1 of Stormlight, The Way of Kings, is a lot of setup, a lot of world building, and it's kind of a slog to get through. And I'll be honest, I do agree with that. I am a big fan of world building, so ultimately, like upon reflection, I'm very happy with this book, but not knowing what was coming and not knowing if my time and energy would be worth it, I was like, oh my God, I cannot sit through what I don't even remember now, but like 40 hours of audiobook. Ryan's gonna correct me on that later. It's this long. And again, this was before I really read audiobooks, so I didn't know that you could turn up the speed. I ultimately took a huge break from The Way of Kings, much to Ryan's chagrin. It actually like tested our marriage at some points. Him being like, you're not even reading the book that I told you to read, and I've read 3 books you told me to read. And that was a weird argument we had for like a year. But at the end of last year, I realized that I do want to get into Brandon Sanderson. Everyone's talking about him, so I gotta do it. Plus, it was an interesting start to the book, and I will admit I've had a heckin' ton of spoilers from Ryan and from the Bookstagram community, which is, I never said no thank you. I had no intention of actually reading the series, so I was like, yeah, spoilers, spoil me up. But luckily for Way of Kings itself, I didn't get that many spoilers, so I dove back into it, the audiobook at 2 times speed, which was much more palatable to me, and I finished it within a month, I think. I've already said it in other videos, but it still feels like gross to say it again. But oh my God, this book is incredible. I didn't want to be a Sanderson fanboy. I didn't. I thought I was different. I thought it was unique and quirky and cool, but I loved The Way of Kings. Objectively, The Way of Kings is the best book I have ever read. I'll say it. It's not my favorite. I have many favorites. Way of Kings doesn't really crack the top 10 all-time favorites for me, but I think that plotting-wise, writing-wise, execution-wise, The Way of Kings is the best book I've ever read. And I know that Words of Radiance is gonna be better because everyone says so. I think that statement will make some people angry because a lot of people hate Way of Kings. People I know in real life hate Way of Kings. And I agree, it's a slow start. The Sanderlanche, which is a phrase coined that essentially means the book starts slow and then all of a sudden, it's amazing. Do you like my avalanche sound? The Sanderlanche is real. It's so real. The last 30% of this book was high octane insanity. It gave me chills. There's a specific scene that if you've read the book, it involves some specific characters. I don't want to spoil it. Oh, so good. Chills, literal chills, tears, new respect for a character that wasn't my favorite throughout the book. You know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the world building. So I've only read one other Brandon Sanderson book from start to finish, and that was Tress of the Emerald Sea. And I absolutely loved the world building in that book. While the book itself was not my favorite, I think that it was super inventive and creative. And the Stormlight Archive just like proves for me in my heart that Brandon Sanderson is one of the most talented world builders out there. As an aspiring writer myself, it's always hard to sort of find a line between drawing inspiration from things that are real and just making up some nonsense and to make an interesting world. And I think that Brandon Sanderson has found like a perfect mesh of those two ideas, because this world feels very familiar because it's got some staples that we require, like within certain government systems, etc. It's very familiar fantasy, but then there's fantasy elements and magic that are wholly new in my opinion and seem like they could go completely off the rails because it's just ridiculous. But he has implemented hard, fast rules that mean that his magic and his fantasy makes so much sense. And then when it comes to characters, at the start again, and one of the reasons why I kind of gave up early on reading this was because I didn't really click with many of the characters. My favorite standout character off the bat, and I have no explanation for this, but it's Adolin. Even though I know he's got like a bigger role in the later books, but he doesn't really do much in book 1, but I really liked him for some reason, and he gets like 0 page time. So I was not vibing with the main perspectives, which of course are Dalinar, Kaladin, and Shallan. I think those are the only like, main perspectives other than the interludes. In this one, I'm already forgetting. And I know one of the big draws of Way of Kings for most readers is Kaladin, and he is like, oh, our baby cinnamon roll that must be protected. But that's a kind of character that I really don't like. And I don't know, maybe I'll like him later in the books. And obviously he's a very well written character, so I do respect him as a character. He's just not my type. So his chapters, while I loved the bridge stuff, I loved that aspect, and I loved the cast of side characters around him, Kaladin himself was kind of meh for me from start to finish. Dalinar was extremely meh at the start. Again, I was not interested in the visions. I just was not at all pulled into his storyline, other than when he's interacting with Adolin, who for some reason I'm obsessed with. And Sadeas, okay, actually I forgot. One of my other favorite characters from the start was Sadeas. I have no explanation for that either. I just thought he was really cool. I'm trying not to do spoilers. I've committed to not doing spoilers in this video, but I will say by the end of the book, I'm a Dalinar stan all the way. Love Dalinar, he's incredible. Oh my gosh, his storyline, chef's kiss, incredible. And then I had opposite feelings about Shallan that I think most people have from what I've heard. A lot of people say Shallan really gets good in the second book, so I'm excited for Words of Radiance, but that they didn't like her in Way of Kings, and they thought that she was like one of their least favorite characters until they got to Words of Radiance, where they discovered she was really cool. I loved Shallan. I almost called her Shaladin. What? I loved Shallan from the start. I really vibed with Shallan. I really saw a lot of myself in her, which I don't know what that says about me, because I don't know enough about her as a character, but like, I really liked her. I really empathized with her. Yasna and Navani are just like unknowns to me at this time. They are side characters in book 1, and I just don't know yet how I feel about them. They're cool from the outside, but I'm still on the outside, so I don't know how I feel about them. Zeth, sick as heck, love him. And then Hoyd, or Wit, as a character, I do know more about than I should, having read Tress of the Emerald Sea and having Ryan talk to me about him. I am aware of Hoyd's arc. And that's just how it's gonna be, but I don't mind spoilers. I'm not a spoiler fearing person. I haven't read anything else by Brandon Sanderson other than Tress, Way of Kings, and I've started Warbreaker 3 times. I think I'll like it. I just have trouble getting into it again. I'm gonna have to do an audiobook for it, because again, I've got the mass market, which I don't like. And I think that Stormlight is the only series of his that I would like. Ryan has read all of Mistborn and explained a lot of it to me. Like at this point, I can't really read Mistborn because I know everything, but it doesn't sound like something I'd be interested in anyways. Elantris is not happening for me. Ryan read Elantris. And then Brandon Sanderson's sci-fi, like YA sci-fi stuff, Skyward and Starsight. I own them, but I'm not into YA, and I don't think I'm gonna read it. So I'm a Sander fan when it comes to Stormlight for now. Maybe I'll read Words of Radiance and I'll hate it. We don't know. I won't, but like, I don't know. But I don't think that I'm as obsessed with him as most readers who like his work are. Did that make sense? I don't know. I'll have to listen to it back. Ryan really wants to go to Dragonsteel next year, the con in Utah or whatever. I'm so down to go. I don't care about meeting Brandon Sanderson. I watched all his lectures. They're very good. They're on YouTube for free. And I learned a lot about his process, and it helped me figure out my process as a writer, and he's got some great advice. So I respect him as a creator and a writer, but I don't care about like meeting him or getting special stuff or whatever. Speaking of special stuff though, for Christmas, slightly as a gift to myself, but mostly as a gift to Ryan, I purchased the leather-bound Way of Kings. It comes in 2 bind-ups because it's so long. I can't even slide them out. Ryan has not allowed me to take them out of the plastic. That's why they're so shiny. He's very weird about plastic on books. It's a little frustrating. So we're gonna have a talk about that, and then maybe I can take them out of the boxes. But these are gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning. I sold both my kidneys to get these. I now own the Way of Kings 3 times. Although 1 copy I'm never getting back again. Because the mass market edition that I was originally reading, Ryan lent out to a man that he met in kickboxing that he didn't really know, and then that man absconded with my book and has not been seen since. Should I report him to the FBI? I'll just have to buy a new copy, Ryan. That's what I'll have to do, Ryan. My goal for the rest of 2024 is to read through the 3 currently released Stormlight books. I'm pointing at them. I could just bring them onto screen. Hold on. These guys. I gotta get through these 3 chonkers on audiobook before the release of Stormlight 5, which I believe is December 7th. Ultimately, I know I'm very, very late to the Brandon Sanderson party, but I am on board now. I'm attending the party. And I would highly encourage anyone who is skeptical about Brandon Sanderson or Stormlight specifically to give it a go. It's really, really good, and it's already a classic at this point, but I think further down the line it's gonna become even more of a required classic reading. I was a skeptic slash hater from the start. Hello, Danny, come here. I was a skeptic slash hater from the start, and I was wrong. I'm saying it on camera. Danny, I was wrong. And it is now one of my favorite books. Before I go, thanks again to Rive for sponsoring this video. And also before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 2 days a week. I love you guys. Goodbye.